North Star's for teens who are miserable in school. Some of them are doing really well in school, but just bored, and they really wish they could be getting on with their lives sooner. Some of the kids are miserable in school and feeling depressed or anxious or having other issues. And some kids have just stopped trying to school because they don't see it as having any point, and they're kind of curious to see what the system will do to them if they stop trying or stop attending. And North Star tells all these teens, you're right. You want to get on with your life? Yesterday was your last day of school. Stop going. Stop trying to fix it. You don't need school. You can, in fact, go ahead and learn whatever you want, and the world will love you for it, and the world will be open to you, and it's not a sacrifice. It's not a second-class thing. You don't have to apologize or explain or justify. You may just stop going to school at age 11, 12, 13, and choose to get on with your life, and we are here to help you do that. And most people aren't able and ready to do that. Most normal human beings are not going to hear the fact there's a way to live without school and utilize it. They may be able to hear it and possibly believe it, that these alternative models, that unschooling, homeschooling, self-directed learning options exist and that people are actually thriving without school. If they're willing to believe it, most people still think, but I could never do that. We're a single parent family, we're two working parents. We don't feel confident with education. Our kids get on our nerves. We get on our kids' nerves. Our kids don't listen to us. They'll just do nothing. And people don't trust themselves that even if this model is true and works, that it's not something they would do in their families ever, right? And North Star as a program exists to solve all of that, so that anybody who wants to try living without school can. North Star is not a school. It's a program that has a building, a community center with classes, calendars of writing groups and reading groups and a rock band and theater and growing up female and all kinds of classes and things that kids can do. They're all voluntary. They're all not for grades. They're all interest-based like adult ed, like we would do for fun in our own adult lives, right? Photography, you name it. All kinds of projects and things happen there. There's also loads of one-on-one tutoring for kids who want one-on-one math or a guitar lesson or a language lesson, or they're working on the ceramics. They just want one person to help them and not in a group setting. And every teen has an advisor or a mentor who's checking in with them regularly to see if this choice to try to live without school is actually working. How are things going for them at North Star? How are things going for them out in the world? What else might we be able to do for them? How are their parents living with it? So that everybody has an advisor, point person, who's helping manage the whole concept with the parents and the teen together. Beyond that, North Star has plenty of social space. North Star is largely a social environment. If you came to North Star, you'd think that's a lot of kids playing. Don't they do anything? Really? So you come to North Star and you see kids hanging out and playing. You see kids going to classes. You see kids meeting with adults one-on-one for tutors and advisory sessions. You see people coming and going all the time. Right? There's never a moment when everybody's there. Most kids come in 2 or 3 days a week that we're open for. And it's a busy, bustling thing. And you see happy teens. You might think they're only happy because no one's pestering them, but that's not really true. They're happy because in a profound sort of way they feel empowered, they feel in control of their lives, and it's completely different than going to school. And they know that they can, that now is their time. They don't have to wait until 18 to do what they really wish they could do. And so you see 15 and 16-year-olds moving on to community college sometimes, or the four-year colleges. They can audit classes and sometimes even get credit for them. We see kids go to all kinds of most kids go to college. This is a better way to go to college, frankly. There's no risk, right? People travel, people start businesses, people have joined the circus. One of our alumni became a public school superintendent, for that matter, right? There's really no limits. This is not a risk. It is telling a 13 or 14-year-old or a 16-year-old, really, you think you can do better than school? You're probably right. Now, I wouldn't have done this as a teen. I liked school. If someone had offered me an option to regular traditional public high school, I would have said no thank you. My two children, who are 18 and 16, have both stayed in public school for the duration. My 18-year-old graduated, he's a freshman in college right now. My 16-year-old is in 10th grade. They choose to go to school. Many siblings of North Star teens choose to go to school. Some North Star teens themselves want a year out in middle school year, 7th or 8th grade, and then choose to go to high school. That's great and glorious. I wish every teen could choose to go to high school because they see that as the best way to live their lives now. Not because they need to go for future credentials, but because that's the community in which they want to spend their time every day now. That's great. But if people do not feel that way, someone, North Star, can tell them, not only is there another lifestyle, we will help you do it. We will hold your hand, we will help you get out of school, we will help you deal with the homeschooling law, we will help you imagine a full and busy life, we'll be part of that as much as you want us to be part of it, right? And when you're done with us, you get to carry on and do it independently, and it will work. That's really exciting. We've been doing this 20 years. In the last 3 years, we've created a separate organization called Liberated Learners, which is a network of centers modeled after North Star, mostly disillusioned school teachers who are quitting the system to try to work with kids in this way, teamed up with mostly veteran homeschooling parents whose kids have outgrown homeschooling because they're old, but they still want to be involved in the process and be involved in this world. And so you take veteran homeschooling people who understand the process and disillusioned public school teachers or private school teachers, and you put them all together and you say, let's help everybody do this marvelous lifestyle. Who wants to do it? We'll turn nobody away from money. We'll turn nobody away from being a hard case, right? We will offer them as much support as we can. We will let them say no when they're done. They don't have to do anything at our centers. We will not give them diplomas. We will not give them grades. We will not give them credits because they're not for sale, because they don't need them for us. And not only do they not need them from us to do whatever they want, it's better for them to learn that they can really self-evaluate and be in charge of their own credentialing, and that the world really does accept it. So it's loads of fun. The most common process is sometime between 16 and 18. They start dabbling with community college, and they're still a member of North Star. They're taking 1 or 2 classes, or they're auditing at Hampshire College or Amherst College or Smith or Mount Holyoke, or they started something at UMass. And somewhere along the line, they're on fire for the academic thing that they're doing, and they want to go to a 4-year college like school kids do, but they're applying differently because they already have some community college done. Sometimes they even get an associate's degree and apply as transfers and save a lot of money, right? And don't take SATs because you're doing that with an associate's degree. Or they just don't do that. They go to a 4-year school as a freshman, just using all their experiences as the credentials to get in. And they may or may not take SATs depending on how competitive the 4-year schools they're applying to, right? First of all, college is the most common after North Star option, right? And the second most common is that people decide to take a year and they just work, or they travel, or they're doing some other kind of 1-year training program, or they're doing AmeriCorps, or they're doing something that, that we label gap years, or other kinds of stuff that people do when they're 17 or 18 or 19 years old, right? But the world's completely available. It's not magical. In fact, the punchline is that there's not a single thing you can do with a high school diploma that you cannot do without one. Not one thing. And that can go for an elite private school diploma, a traditional public school diploma, a charter school diploma, an online diploma for an accredited homeschooling kind of situation. You do not need those diplomas. And if you want to get one of those diplomas because it helped you learn what you wanted, or you liked the adventure of going to that place to get that diploma, great. I have one of those, my kids have those, that's fine. But if the process is getting you down and you don't get one, the thing you might need, and will always be sufficient, is you can get a GED and throw it in the drawer, right? The military, AmeriCorps, UMass, a number of other training programs, they don't want a homeschooling diploma and your own self-styled transcript, so you get the GED. It's always sufficient. I've never seen anybody turned away from anything because they chose not to stay in standard high school till age 18 and get a traditional diploma. And so it's very simple. Take the stupid test, throw it in the drawer, be done with it, and get on with your life and start wondering what you really want to be doing. Our vision is that it would be great to have centers like North Star everywhere. Not that every kid needs to do North Star, but that every community should have a center like North Star for kids who want it, right? And for that to happen, there have to be people who understand the model, who can gather a team together, and are willing to start a project of coaching mostly school-based families to leave school and embrace this approach, right? Sometimes you get lifelong homeschoolers who join in, but there's not that many who want to join clubs and pay money and hire, pay enough money that adults like us can get paid to do that. So it's not a homeschooling co-op in the traditional sense, and it can't be, these programs aren't going to be sustained financially by the payments of existing homeschoolers, though any one program might have some lifelong homeschoolers who join at 15 years old for a year or something. But the primary goal is to help teenagers and families miserable in school realize that this other approach is fabulous, that it's successful, that there's no issues with it, and that all you have to do is want to do it. But to want it, most people will only want it if there's a community of others doing it, that they're not alone, that there's some coaching, that there's some groups and classes and tutors and mentors available, that you just don't opt out alone on your own. That's a little too much. So we have now programs in Princeton, New Jersey, in Ottawa, Quebec, Portland, Oregon, Grand Rapids, Michigan, upstate New York, Dedham outside of Boston, and I'm forgetting somebody. There's more, and there's about 7 or 8 more in planning, and it's spreading fairly quickly. We have regular webinars. So if you look at the liberatedlearnersinc.org website, this umbrella network is called Liberated Learners. There's only one North Star. We're not franchising. I don't want to be in charge of other people and other people's centers. People can do it their own way. So every center has its own name. We're all members of Liberated Learners. The one thing I'm sure of is that when I was teaching 8th grade middle school, I was making some teenagers' lives worse. No matter how much I tried, they didn't understand the assignments, the school made them stressed. There were some people whose lives were just being made worse by going to school. And if there's one thing I'm sure of, in 19 years going on 20, is that in coaching teenagers to stop going to school and experiment with this approach, I have made nobody's life worse. Not one. We don't help everybody. The model doesn't click for everybody, but we've made nobody's life worse. You cannot mess up your life by opting out of high school. It will not be worse. It's going, and the odds of it being better than simply muddling along and graduating are really high. That somehow getting out of school and experimenting with life is going to be more interesting, more enriching, more productive than muddling along and getting your traditional high school diploma with whatever grades you choose to get. It's just an open and shut case, right? So there is no risk. There really is not a risk. The risk is, conversely, watching your teenagers shut down, watching teenagers withdraw, watching teenagers, when what could be the prime of their lives, just putting in time and waiting for it to be over. That's the risk. And I wasn't willing to have a career in that world, and I left. And I think that encouraging other people to leave, encouraging other people to help others leave, is a really meaningful career. Thank you.